The Gamers, Kyla's Rescue, written and narrated by C. Taylor, edited to meet YouTube guidelines. To purchase the unedited book, please click the link in the description. Chapter 17. From Kate's perspective, we need her, Kyla. Kate's tone was sharp, insistent, but not angry. They had disagreed on plans before, but not since being in each other's presence. His need for her to understand and agree warred with his need to be alone with her again. The mixture was intoxicating and overwhelming at the same time. No, I told you, Kate, and you gave me your word. Sky is not negotiable. Kyla's strong will, fierce loyalty, and brilliant intellect were their greatest assets when they were on the same side, but always proved to be the greatest challenge he'd ever faced when they were opposed. I agreed to never require she be removed from us. If anything, I thought you would be thrilled to know she needed to come with us. Back to Suenia? Do you have any idea what that could cost her? Kyla's face was red. In all the time he'd known her, he'd never seen her this upset. Yes, I understand the risks. I've also seen what she's capable of. I believe the risks will be minimal. He knew there were some risks, but they were all facing risks every day with what they were doing. I can't, Kate. I can't do that to her. Even if she's not caught, she's finally found some peace for the first time since I've known her. I know it's the planet everyone would kill to live on, but it was hell for her. You have no idea the torment I watched her go through there. I can't watch it happen to her again if she returns. That also made him feel sick. He had reviewed all the footage of her closely before Kyla had altered her programming, had seen the shift in her. Only then did he notice the tension lifting from his own body when she finally relaxed after the programming shift. The girl affected him too, as much as he hated to admit it. She's stronger than either of us know. If we explain what we need to do there, she will insist on coming to give us the help we need, which is why she will never be told. Before he could formulate his counter-argument, the entry request chimed in his quarters. They both looked at the screen to see Sky waiting outside his sealed room. Please don't even think of telling her anything. Kyla's words were firm, but hinted at her knowledge that she could do little to stop him. The one thing that he knew she could do would stop him every time, and he was pretty sure she already knew that. The fact that she phrased it as a request was shockingly reassuring to him. He never liked the feeling of being on opposing sides with her. The request gave him hope. She felt the same way. He moved to unseal his room. She stood there, scanning the room, assessing what she had just interrupted. Sorry, you look like you're in the middle of something. I just wanted to make a request, but it can wait. Just ask, Kate ordered, frustration making his words bite, and he saw Sky flinch slightly. Of course, I wanted to see if I could borrow Jareth and the chameleon for about 3 days. I need to return to Suenia. From Sky's perspective, had she said something wrong? She had hoped it would be a fairly simple request, but now they were just staring at her like she had grown another head. Luckily, this was not the first time she'd been stared at like this, so it felt familiar, but still uncomfortable. She felt Jareth move beside her, their hands gravitated toward each other and closed at the moment of contact. The connection calmed her as it always did, and she relaxed while she waited for their answer. Cade was the first to speak. Why do you need to return? Kyla and I only came with one outfit, and hers was damaged in a wardrobe mishap she still won't explain. I'm sure the flight suits aren't that comfortable, Sky reasoned, looking at her friend. Kyla looked at both Sky and Cade, smiled weakly, and just shrugged. Sky's eyebrows raised at Kyla, and she continued. With supply lines so limited, I thought I could just pack up what's at my apartment, plus Kyla can order whatever she wants, and then you don't have to worry about using your resources for it. How were you planning to get back on the planet without alerting them that you left? Cade wondered if she thought of the same plan. Then he glanced at Jareth and wondered if he had disobeyed his direct order to not tell her of the mission. Jareth raised his eyebrows and he shook his head no. I just need Jareth to set up a reservation to access the planet. From what I understand, he's a regular guest there, so it shouldn't be hard. Now Cade's eyes shot to Jareth, who put up his free hand in an innocent gesture, shook his head more adamantly, and mouthed, "I didn't tell her anything." His eyes shifted back to Sky. "You understand the risk you face if you return, and they know you've left the planet?" "There's a minimal to non-existent risk. Anyone has even the slightest idea I'm not hanging out in my apartment. I don't have to report to my first day of service for another 6 months, and no one would send the detective services if I didn't even then. Anyone who knows me wouldn't expect me to leave my condo at all, and most are likely relieved they haven't had to avoid me yet." She felt Jeff's hand tighten around hers. He leaned in close. "They don't know what they're missing," he whispered. The words made Sky smile, even if they weren't true. She noticed Kyla step forward. "Sky, are you sure you want to go back? I know how hard it was for you there, and if anything happens to you, I'll figure a way out of it," she assured her friend. Jareth and Cade moved at the same time. "We would all help," they both spoke in unison. Now Sky froze. Had she asked for everyone to come? She was still trying to get her bearings now that she felt differently about everything, so she couldn't be sure. "Sorry, I meant for just Jareth and I to go." Jareth leaned into her. "Wait until you see what you've gotten yourself into," he warned as he gently pulled her into Kate's quarters. The door sealed behind them. From Sky's perspective, a week later, Kate was piloting the Chameleon as they neared Sueña. Already in stealth mode, they approached the solar belt they needed for the first step. Kyla had linked their interstellar relay to the Chameleon's stealth technology, and the now invisible unit was deployed to the exact location on the belt. After it was released from the craft, Kyla tapped her tablet to run a diagnostic. Once they confirmed it was working perfectly, they waited for Jareth's approach in his diplomatic cruiser. Right on time, his cruiser came out of deep space and approached the Skynet gate. Cade moved the Chameleon directly behind Jareth's craft. As Jareth completed the security checks, the gate opened, and they both moved through. Once through, the crafts parted directions. Jareth left for processing at the port, and Sky guided Cade to the secluded spot where she had moved her cruiser. She pointed to the building where Kyla had been held as they flew past. Once he landed, Sky dropped the ramp and ran for her cruiser. She maneuvered her craft to head straight for her apartment. She had an appointment she needed to get to, but she was not currently addressed appropriately. She jumped out of her cruiser the moment it was docked and made her way into her unit. Her apartment was empty. The extraction team had moved covertly to Ryland's apartment the night before and were awaiting Kate and Kyla's instructions. Being alone now, she was able to rush, making her way to her closet and scanning through her clothes. The ones for Kyla had already arrived. That made her smile. She chose an outfit that would reflect her visit to the healing center. She had arranged a meeting with her advisor to go over some alternate working arrangements. If they agreed, Sky would be able to move to and from the planet freely for the foreseeable future. After changing, she moved the packing cubes into their slots and tapped the screen instructing her closet to move the clothes into the cubes. After, she quickly ate breakfast and a warm drink her food prep made for her as arranged. Next, she grabbed her bag and rushed back out to her cruiser. Sometime later, Sky arrived on time for her scheduled meeting. The Master Healer's offices were busy, voices, movement, all hurried and nervous in their preparations for diplomat Jareth Badwin. The nephew of Grand Ambassador Badwin would be arriving soon. Preparations for the visit were still in progress. Everyone looked excited, busy, and distracted. Perfect. She just needed her advisor to agree to her request, an offer that under the current circumstances he would hopefully jump at. She saw him. As it turned out, her advisor was the director of the entire center and as such seemed the most frantic. Sky smiled. Hopefully he wouldn't even remember their conversation. She just needed him to sign off on the permission. His assistant checked Sky in, then moved to the director. Sky watched the assistant touch the Master Healer's arm, then lean in to speak with him directly. Sky casually looked around the office suite, but watched out of the corner of her eye. Master Healer Kahori's head shot up and looked straight at her. Then he visibly rolled his eyes and leaned his head back in frustration. Sky held her breath. Moments passed before she began to breathe again once he lowered his head and reluctantly nodded. He wouldn't risk offending the founding families by denying her. Sky stifled a smile. He walked directly up to her with a smile. Miss Renaud-Dulé, I am honored you have come today. However, it was my understanding you had changed your mind and would not be starting until the end of your allowed 6 months. His words were calm, but the tension in his jaw betrayed the annoyance she was sure he was feeling. Sky sighed, betraying a pampered double founder who would have no regard for anyone else but herself. I did, but I'm getting so bored, and last time I was here, the work seemed so yucky. She made her voice sound as whiny as she could. I wanted to see if I could be approved to do remote research instead of, yes, of course, I'll okay it right now. He interrupted her. He rushed to his assistant and directed her to start making the arrangements. What field did you want to study? Sky huffed, shifted her weight to her left side, and jammed her hand into her left hip. I don't know. Maybe we could discuss the options in detail so I can decide. How about I grant you access to the entire library? You can research to your heart's content. He was already turning to his assistant. I think that would be best. Sky agreed. Agni, please update Miss Rana Dulay's credentials to grant her access to the entire library and all other archive material. Sky made sure her expression didn't change, but inside she started to feel lightheaded. It worked. Jareth's brilliant part of the plan had actually worked, and she hadn't messed it up. This was just the first part of their plan. She still had a lot to do, but for the first time, she was hopeful she would be able to do it all. Once her credentials were updated, Sky smiled at the director. That is so sweet. Thank you. Since I won't be coming in but want to research, could I be assigned a mobile lab, for the research? Master Healer Kahori looked at her like he couldn't believe his luck. Sure, Agni, please order one to be delivered here. Sky giggled. It sounded weird in her head, but the director seemed to like it. It will take about an hour for the mobile lab to arrive. It will require an eye scan, so you'll need to wait or come back later if you prefer. I hate to be impolite, but we are very busy here today. Is there anything else you need from me? Sky made herself seem to think for a moment. Since I have to wait anyway and don't really know what I'm doing yet, could I see the center slab? So I know what to do with the mobile one? He paused. Sky's stomach clenched, but she kept her face innocently hopeful. Normally, you would need an escort for something like that, but we are very busy today. I'll notify the lab director that you'll need access, but there won't be anyone available to show you around or explain what they do. Holy crap, Jareth was right. His visit just ensured she got everything she needed. That's fine. I'd still like to see it today. Then, if I have any questions, I could schedule another tour on a less busy day, maybe. There was a commotion. Someone rushed into the suite of offices and yelled a little too loudly, He just arrived. Everyone to their places now. The director glanced back at her and started to move away. That's fine. Arrange it through Agni. And then he was gone. Another rush of people, and the suites were nearly empty. Those that remained looked disappointed they weren't included in the welcome committee. Since her time with him, she had forgotten just how popular he was throughout all the known universes. She had never seen him before, but recognized his name from their first meeting. She had instantly understood his popularity after meeting him, but his kindness had shocked her, his skill impressed her, and his calming presence quickly became something she never wanted to live without. At this moment, reality settled in. Jareth was beyond her reach for anything other than a temporary aid for as long as he allowed. In the meantime, she needed to get to the lab. She only had an hour, and the timing needed to be perfect. Sometime later. She already had the counterweight in her bag, had the cloth that no one could see in her hand, and was moving around the lab. Like all other parts of the healing center, it was sparsely populated, and those that were left looked disappointed. Sky could relate. She scanned her eyes like she was just taking it all in, but quickly found the item she needed. Casually she wandered, occasionally leaning against a table or desk for a moment before moving on. The sound dampener concealed the number of items she was able to retrieve from the lab. Luckily, there wasn't anything she needed that was heavily regulated. Kyla had made sure of it when she was forced to design the thing. Any missing material would be written off as mistakes in record keeping. She felt his presence before she saw him. Her senses heightened at the same time her mind relaxed. How did he do that? The adoring horde followed him into the lab. The lab techs that had to stay looked like they were about to pass out at the unexpected visit, especially the female ones. Again, she could relate. All of the attention centered on him. With everyone distracted, she ducked into the room, grabbed the last two items she needed, and tapped the screen to confirm they had been destroyed. The moment she finished, she stepped back out of the room. Their eyes locked, his mouth widened into his dimpled smile, and the females around him started to giggle. This made Sky's mouth twitch into an involuntary smile. He looked back at the demonstration being presented to him. Glances back at her during the process made her stomach flutter. He leaned closer to the director and whispered something. The director glanced over and, for the first time, noticed she was there. His eyes widened, turned back to Jareth, and nodded. The group moved toward her. Sky covertly grasped the table behind her for support. The focus of nearly the entire group was on her, and she had to stay standing. Crumpling into a small ball while hugging her legs would have to wait. She quickly went through the list of materials Kyla had given her. If she didn't have everything, she would turn Jareth's offer down now, then meet him later. If she had everything, she would accept the offer, join him for the rest of the tour, and leave with him, bypassing the normal security checks. Diplomat Badawin, let me introduce novice Sky Rano Dule. As her name confirms, she is a double founder and the first of the founding families to choose service over interning, and the only one to ever choose healing services as her profession. Wow, he was trying really hard to make her sound good. Jareth's eyebrows raised. Now that does sound unique. His eyes danced as he watched her. Sky couldn't help but play back. I have been called that many times, she nodded. Through our counseling sessions, Miss Rano Dule expressed her interest in focusing on research. Master Healer Kahori looked as proud as if he'd been the one to guide her in that direction. Oh, considering this was the second time she had used him to get what she needed, she'd let him have it. Really, I'd love to hear your insights on your chosen field, he baited. The director, not Sky. The director coughed. She's just starting her work. We are still deciding on a focus. Sky stifled a giggle, looked down submissively, and nodded her head in agreement with her counselor's story. Jareth didn't miss a beat. Well, then, maybe I could help. Would you join me for the rest of my tour? Sky didn't look up yet. Her mind went over the list one more time to make sure she hadn't missed anything. Her heart and stomach fluttered. She had everything. She could join Jareth. I would be honored. His smile made everything okay. He extended his hand in an offer to take hers. There were audible gasps from the crowd, making Sky wonder if this was something he didn't normally do. The fluttering in her stomach doubled as she reached out and took his hand, and for the first time, she physically connected with someone in public. More focus centered on her, and for once, she didn't care, wasn't panicked, and just enjoyed the calm she always felt from him. Female voices, low and quiet, started to whisper. The group started to move. Jareth's hand stayed on hers as he guided her through the rest of the tour. Her portable lab was ready when they arrived in the suite of offices. Her retina scan recorded, and arrangements were made to transport her to her apartment. Jareth made sure to ask her out for a date before the tour ended to ensure she exited the healing center with him, completely bypassing normal security procedure. Once outside, Suina's current relations officers rushed toward him, recording Jareth's every step and shouting questions at him. Sky was immediately overwhelmed. The frantic rush of people had her legs shaking, even with Jareth's hand still holding hers. They were supposed to part ways after leaving, but if she let go of his hand, she would be lost. Jareth's hand tightened in hers. He pulled her closer to him, moved his arm to wrap around her, which grounded her instantly. Her legs stopped shaking, and she followed where he led. Soon, she found herself in the Sueña-provided luxury cruiser, along with his escorts speeding away from the mob. The further they got, the calmer she felt. Is it always like that? She asked. Not quite that bad, but yes, I usually get that kind of attention. Some current relations publication named me as the most eligible bachelor in the known universes a while ago. Since then, any mention of me in articles increases its circulation. He explained, and as always with him, she understood. So, what made this worse? I've never held a woman's hand in public. I think the Healing Center's relations department alerted the circulation department after I took your hand. The Healing Center will use the publicity from it to increase its popularity, thus increasing its funding. Suenia will use it to support its claim of being the best place to live in the known universes. The director will use his connection to you to increase his influence on the board of directors. It helps my uncle's popularity. Sky interjected. But what do you get out of it? Everything he said made her feel like everyone around him used him for what they wanted. Jareth quieted. He leaned over and relaxed against her shoulder. Well, right now, I get you. She knew there was more he wanted to say, but Sky looked toward the pilot and Jareth's required escort sitting at the front of the visitors' transport. They weren't alone and couldn't openly talk. She didn't feel like she had enough information to know what to do to help him, but put that thought aside for now. She leaned her head against his, resting on her shoulder. Yeah, you have me, she confirmed, the only thing she could think of to comfort him until they were alone again and could talk. His eyes glanced up, trying to see her eyes but reluctant to pull away from her shoulder. At least that's how it seemed to Sky. I invited you on a date, but I usually take women to really fancy restaurants or whatever exclusive event is available. Just the thought made Sky tense and involuntarily pull away from him. His head added counterpressure against her shoulder, and he tightened his hand around hers. I get the feeling you wouldn't enjoy that very much. What would you like to do? She relaxed against him, her eyes raised, and started searching. A few places raced through her mind. One place popped at its center, but there was no way he'd want to go. There is one place. I don't think you'd like it, though. Jarrah smiled, no dimple. Let's see. Pilot, will you take us wherever Miss Rano Dule wants to go? Sky giggled and raised her free hand to cover her face. Oh boy, you're about to find out just how unique I am.